السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الحمد لله رب العالمين، الحمد لله ذي الملك والملكوت ذي العزة والجبروت، الحمد لله حي قيوم لا ينام، عزيز لا يضام، قهار لا يرام، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. يقول الباري سبحانه وتعالى بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. O you believe, fear Allah as He should be feared and die not except on the state of Islam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the most merciful bestow upon us the gift to die on the state of Islam. Allahumma ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Amma ba'd. Looking at the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we will never be able to enumerate, one of the greatest favors is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed and conferred to His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and what Musa alayhi salam have inquired when he was asked to fulfill the task of facing Fir'aun the tyrant, which is Sharh al-Sadr. Wa Sharh al-Sadri is the expansion of the chest or uplifting the heart. And it has such wisdom and it has such impact and wonders that no one will be able really to enumerate or to grasp how great it is. We are in this month of the Qa'dah, وهو شهر المحرم, and soon inshallah ta'ala we will be welcoming the Hijjah. And for us already to get ready after Ramadan to reactivate back our willingness to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We'll be talking about the certitude to meet Allah. We were talking about the complete surrendering to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and all of it in how can we really redress our trajectory and correct it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be able to take the great advantage of the Dhul Hijjah that insha'Allah will be welcoming. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the life to witness those greatest of days are the greatest days of the whole existence, as the Prophet ﷺ told us, and the existence in this worldly life. Sharh al-Sadri, it is something that every believer wish to have if we know what it means and we know what is its impact, and we'll be asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to get it. Because the Sharh of al-Sadr, which is the uplifting of the heart, the expansion of the chest, it is to change or turn the hardship related to what we have been commissioned to do in our journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fulfilling the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and watching and observing everything that He told us subhanahu wa ta'ala and commanded us to do. It comes with a hardship. With the Sharh al-Sadr it becomes a joy. And everything subhanallah that someone might feel from tiredness and so on, in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the Sharh of the Sadr becomes a sweetness. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala confer and bestow upon you this gift and this great favor of Sharh of the Sadr, the expansion and the uplifting of the heart, a person will be given a drive and willpower and enthusiasm to do the shuf, to be racing for the achievement of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded, with enthusiasm, with great hope, and with great, subhanallah, willpower, joy and tranquility in the heart, instead of feeling like he's weighing so heavy on one shoulder and feeling like he's a burden. Therefore, with the Sharh al-Sadr, someone will be really truly waiting for the prayer with his heart in impatient way, but without it a person will be trying to deny the prayer and subhanallah trying to delay it, and when it comes to it very lazy and feels like a burden, like a mountain just weighing on their shoulder. And this is just an example between what it means to be a Sharh of the Sadr. Therefore, Sharh al-Sadri is something that the believer truly needs. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed it on His Prophet. قَالَ أَلَمْ نَشْرَحْ لَكَ صَدْرَكَ. Have you not uplifted your heart? Have you not expanded your chest? And Sharh al-Sadr al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam comes with the al-in'am, with the blessing and the gift that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed on His Prophet. This, whatever the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was longing for to reach as, the highest levels of ubudiyyah for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He expanded his chest and He gave it to him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also notify him with His pleasure to him, and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give and do to the deen that He brought and that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent with, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give it to be empowered and give it to be having the triumph and the nasr, the victory from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was the sharh that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam get from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the greatest of the gift, to give him always, observing the way of Allah, grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قَالَ وَرَفَعْنَا عَنْكَ قَالَ الَّذِي أَنْقَضَ ظَهْرَكَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has removed the thing that was weighing onto your back. And that's the Sharh. So the Sharh, it is to make your journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with enthusiasm, with the joy, and whatever it was hardship, it becomes something that someone is really close to their heart. It gives them that happiness, and it gives them that sweetness of Iman, and give them that peace of mind. So this is the Sharh. This is the Sharh. And Musa alayhi salam, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained him to go to Fir'aun, قال اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى. the first thing he asked is شرح الصدر. قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري. And here, what Musa alayhi salam has requested from the expansion of his chest is to remove anything that comes, subhanAllah, an obstacle to him to convey his message, an obstacle of fear, obstacle in one's thinking, obstacle of tightness of the heart, obstacle of feeling like kind of sorrow, of being scared. All of that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be removing from the heart of Musa, from the thought of Musa, to have that enthusiasm, to have that strength, so we'll be able to face Fir'aun with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him as a message. So this is the first thing that what Musa alayhi salam asked is sharh al-sadr. So you see then, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed the gift of the sharh on his Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Musa, the first thing he has been, or inquired from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his first step of da'wah, in his first step of prophethood, is a sharh al-sadr. Therefore the believer realizes that the sharh is a necessity for the path, because no one actually, or actually everyone, he wished to have that tranquility dwelled in their heart, that enthusiasm having in their heart. They wish to have whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded them, they embrace it as something that gives them more joy, give them more happiness, and that's the meaning of the sharh. Therefore, the inquiring of the sharh is a necessity for the believer, because this sharh, it will, subhanAllah, strengthen your power and bring tranquility into your heart and make you to have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with you in all the time, For this reason, when Musa alayhi salam asked the sharh from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the sharh for a perspective to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, therefore he became into the servitude of Allah, fully into the canopy of the mercy of Allah. Many of us, we act in seeking to seek the pleasure of Allah, but many of action comes out, subhanallah, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what pleases Allah. Therefore, in those actions, we are out of the mercy of Allah, we are out of the protection of Allah. If you inquiring the sharh and you fulfill the condition of the sharh, then you're going to be fully into the canopy of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we're going to explain. Now, if a believer wish to have, I would not say wish, but as a dedicated believer, they look forward to have the sharh in their heart. They look forward to have this expansion, this heart to be uplifted, to feel that tranquility regardless of whatever situation they are going through, because they are connected with Allah, and the one who feeds this heart with the tranquility is Allah. He's the one who descends on your heart this force of sakina, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called descend because it's a force that He subhanahu wa ta'ala will to descend on whom, on which heart He will subhanahu wa ta'ala. قال وَأَنزَلَ السَّكِينَةَ فِي قُلُوبِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. He's the one who sent down the sakina. So this is nothing have to do with what we can gain from tranquility by our dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but this is special sakina that descends into your heart. So you gain it as a favor, not you gain it as your one of the, the result of your action. So the sharh, when someone will inquire for it and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it, to get this advantage, the first question you ask yourself, why you asking it? Why we ask this question? Because this question is going to define the condition that you have to fulfill for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to provide you this sharh, to provide you this expansion in the chest, to have your heart to be uplifted, and to have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be with you. So why you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for an expansion, for Allah to expand your heart, your chest, to feel good, to feel tranquility? Why? For what purpose? It is the purpose would define for us the condition or the action that we need to work on, so to be the basis or subhanAllah the ground upon which we will be able to inquire Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us this peace in our heart. Because into the spirit of the Sharia, everything you ask for, you have first to do your part and then ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cannot a person be passive and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this tranquility and peace and uplifting of the heart when they didn't do any action or any step toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You make one step toward Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes to you many steps. قَالَ مَنْ تَقَرَّبَ إِلَيْهِ شِبْرًا تَقَرَّبْتُ إِلَيْهِ بَاعًا. And you know the hadith. But the wisdom of the hadith, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you go to Him walking, He'll come to you running, because you already initiated the action by walking toward Him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not come to you if you don't first go to Allah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mercy, He will come to you in the double of the speed that you are going to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, in this, we'll ask ourselves, we need to understand the mechanism of how to inquire the sharh of the sadr to be really able, insha'Allah ta'ala, to benefit for it and to be given and bestowed upon this sharh. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the objective. And then when we know the objective, it's going to really change our perspective how to look at the sharh, because people, they look at the tranquility or inquiring from the tranquility and the peace of the heart. With what purpose? Just to feel good. To feel good. When you come to that state to feel good and feel tranquility, and you have, removed all the aspect of anguish and worrying, and subhanallah, all what people are going through from suffering, and especially subhanallah, when it's related to mental health and so on. If you come to a situation that you feel good, then what is going to happen? What is your objective? Just to feel good? To lay down and feel good? Now, subhanAllah, that's when people sometimes, we are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for many things, but we do not connect it with our overall, or the overall journey that we are, subhanAllah, have in our life. So the objective, as Musa alayhi salam, Allah defined it in His book, قَالَ رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِنْ لِسَانِي, to the end of the dua, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, uplift my heart, and make my task to be easy, and tie the impediment into my tongue, and so on, and grant me a wazir, someone, a helper from my ahli, from my family, Haruna akhi, and so on. Now, qala, in the end of the dua, qala كَيْ نُسَبِّحَكَ كَثِيرًا وَنَذْكُرَكَ كَثِيرًا. Here is defined the true objective. For Ya Allah, we asking you all this dua, and on the head of it, of this dua, of this inquiry that we have, is to uplift our heart for one reason, Ya Allah. So we'll be able to remember you much and to glorify you much. Therefore, He subhanAllah turned the whole perspective of the dua. Because the perspective of the dua, not anymore, oh Allah, make my task easy so I can be able to face Fir'aun. Fir'aun is something, subhanAllah, a task, but he is not the center of the journey at all. Is not the center of the journey. The whole journey is toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fir'aun is the one corrupter spreading mischief. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to him a messenger that he might be remembered, but he going to be, punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Allah had the all power and He is the subjugator. وَالْقَاهِرُ فَوْقَ عِبَادِهِ subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore here we said, Ya Allah, give me sharh to my sadr. Uplift my heart. Why? So I can be able to remember you much. So I can be able to connect to you more profoundly and deeply. So I can be able to exalt you and to glorify you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore here, a whole different perspective that is being presented in this ayah to help us correct many of our thinkings, and to help us correct even the way how we make dua. Ask Allah, ask yourself, what is the purpose that you make in dua for? So here, when we know the objective of the dua, this is what is going to define for us the basis of the action, or the action that constitute the basis for us to ask Allah to be able to be a candidate for this dua of the sharh. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed the sharh on His Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as grant, as great favor. And look, Musa alayhi salam, he's requesting for it because he needed it, and it is necessary for his path. But now we finding out it's not because I'm going to face Musa. That's one of the tasks, that's one of the aspect of the dhikr. But Ya Allah, I want you to give me the sharh so that I will be able to remember you much and to glorify you much. كَيْ نُسَبِّحَكَ كَيْ, for that we glorify you much, Ya Allah, and that we remember you much. Now when someone established the dhikr and established the structure of the dhikr within the self, that's what is going to happen. What is going to happen? A person is going to be filled with enthusiasm. A person is going to be inviting and welcoming the tranquility in their heart. A person that is going to have to be empowered in a way, in fulfillment of the commands of Allah, with confidence and with also pleasure and with the joy and with the sweetness that we have. Therefore, he will be like driven toward, always racing for it. And this is the impact of the sharh. that is as an objective is the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in the same time, someone will guarantee Allah's companionship to him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He give you sharh today, expand and uplift, you're going to go through a difficulty. That difficulty, as long as you are fulfilling the objective, which is you are constantly in the remembrance of Allah, in connection with Allah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be with you, and He will uplift your heart when is needed. As when He said to Musa and Fir'aun, which is give us another definition of the dhikr, because one of the people, they think the remembrance of Allah is just restricted to the tongue. No, the remembrance of Allah encompasses statement and aqwal, saying and action, and all the action, and also encompasses every aspect of or every state that you'll be in, every state. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Musa and Harun, after he answered his dua, قال اذهبا بآياتي ولا تنيا في ذكري. Go with my ayat and do not slacken, do not flatter, do not weaken in my remembrance. So this is an evidence, a dalil, that the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encompasses the standing in front of Fir'aun, encompasses just going toward to meet this title, encompasses the da'wah, and includes every aspect that you do it for the sake of Allah. Therefore, every action the believer is doing in his life or her life, it has subhanallah an essence, which is your intention that you're doing it for the sake of Allah, and is going to lead to the pleasure of Allah. Then it becomes the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then when you're going to be doing it, you're going to be remembering of Allah to make it easy for you, to remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help you achieve it, you're remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you the confidence and to give you the empowerment, so you will have the achievement of the action the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleases Him. And you can see then that the dhikr of Allah and the tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all the life of the believer, and one will not be able to do it in such a driven way with great enthusiasm and with the positive willpower only if he had the expansion in his heart, in his chest, which is have that heart is uplifted. Therefore, when we understand this, Musa alayhi salam, when he asked the sharh, ask yourself, you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you this great gift, but are you candidate for it? So the first step, you'll ask yourself, why I'm asking the sharh? Just to feel good? No, not just to feel good. There's objective. So I'll be able to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give me that ability and that condition to be always in the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For this reason, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu dhkuru Allah dhikran kathira. Oh, you believe, remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala much of remembrance, and glorify Him in the morning and the evening. قَالَ وَسَبِّحُوهُ بُكْرَةً وَأَصِيلًا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most merciful, is instructing you at the best action that you should be doing to help you get to that level of being candidate to the sharh of the sadr. So when you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will grant it to you. So if we know that, therefore what is the first step that we need to do as building the ground to help us build on top of it, is like, or inquire, will be like, the first step to ask Allah for the sharh. This first step are defined also in the Quran, So the first step, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make them to be one of the great characteristics leading to the success of the believer. And they are the true action that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put them in the high list of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the beginning of Surah Al-Mu'minun. قَالَ قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Successful are the believers. Who are these believers? How they can be successful? What are the actions that led them to success? قَالَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. These two actions define the basis ground upon which you can ask or build the sharh of the sadr. Because if your objective is to have that level for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant you the favor, to be always and constantly remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who take you up in a level of caring or watching over, of having the ma'iyyah, on having subhanallah steadily that sharh and enthusiasm and peace into your heart. This is what is the ground of it. Then when you build this ground, you'll be able to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not let you down as long as you have fulfilled this action and you ask for Him. Look, after Musa alayhi salam and Harun, they ask for the sharh. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, do not slacken into my remembrance. Do not flatter or weaken. Then when they came, subhanAllah, in a situation more real, I mean, they were alone, now walking, but then when they came by the palace of Fir'aun, and they saw all this soldier, and they saw all these, big things. Seeing these things, as the kings always, they build things so high and everything to intimidate and to cast fear into the heart of the people. So Musa, he realized that this person, he gonna go overboard. So قال إننا نخاف أن يفرط علينا أو أن يطغى. قال, yeah, Allah, we are really concerned and fear that he gonna go overboard and kill us. Here, subhanAllah, another aspect, that when the heart will feel like that weakness, and here, as you have asked Allah and you fulfilled that condition into the ground upon which you're going to be inquiring the sharh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will intervene. قال لا تخافا, do not fear, I am with you. أسمع وأرى. The second time, also when Musa alayhi salam was seeing how their ropes and their sticks, how they turn into subhanallah, into snakes, and it was an illusion. And Musa alayhi salam, he felt fear inside. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala intervened. لا تخف إنك أنت الأعلى. Do not fear, you are the highest. So you see, as you build, to fulfill this objective, Allah then constantly will be with you. So the sharh of the sadr is not something instant that you get it in your heart and stays. No, you're gonna go through a lot of challenges. But every time you go through a challenge and you have fear, or you have something of your heart that subhanallah is pulling you back and causing you anguish, that's Allah intervene, because you already made a covenant with him that he guarantee for you the sharh as we have asked him. Now these two actions upon which the ground need to be built, two actions, al-khushu'u fi salat wal-i'radu an al-lagh. Al-khushu'u fi salat is to be humble and have focus in the salah. However, the khushu' is not an action of the prayer, because you can make prayer without khushu' and be accepted. However, will be rewarded or not, it depends on your focus. Therefore, the khushu' is a requirement to be in the life of a believer. You have the focus and to be humble and connection with Allah in every part of your life, and that touch every aspect, not in the salah. But in the salah is the khushu' that is the one that is required to be at least and mostly into the salah. But the khushu' needs someone to observe it in the salah and out the salah. And the khushu' is the pillar and the backbone of the taqwa, as the salah is the backbone of the deen. So if you perform the prayer, and as the Prophet ﷺ taught, that is the backbone of the religion, the same, the khushu', that state of humbleness, that focus of connection, it is in fact the backbone of the taqwa and the piety and righteousness. Now the next one, will be the khushu' is subhanallah, introducing into your heart and your system something to an adornment. But in the contrast and the opposite will be, what will be subhanallah, destroying that khushu'. It is al-laghwu. That's why قال وَالَّذِينَ, the second thing, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ, and those that are toward al-laghwu, they turn away and avoid. So what is the laghwu? Laghwu, when you read in the some of the translations, they say the idle talk, the vain talk. But the problem here, I will not say problem, but the laghw is not limited to the talk. Anything that is vain and anything that is frivolous, that is not serious, does not connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is laghw. So when you struggle against the laghw to clear it out from your heart, you are building, or subhanallah, creating space for the dhikr to be entering. So if you do not get rid of the laghw, there you not be able to fulfill the dhikr, and per consequence the khushu', and then you will not be able to have those foundations. Then how can you ask Allah for the sharh? Now it turns that the biggest thing that we need to work on, if we're looking forward to inquire the sharh to come to our heart and to have this uplifting of the heart, is to fight the laghw. Now the laghw encompasses the idle talk, the action, and also subhanallah, emotion, and also the center of your occupation. All laghu. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ, they turn away, they avoid anything that does not connect them with Allah, or does not, subhanallah, or anything that comes an obstacle to be connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we're talking, subhanallah, looking at our society today, how ambitions, aspiration, dreams are defined by the creed of the society. And all of us, we are influenced by such a thing. So we like things, we love things, and subhanAllah, they're all vain things, idle things. Those, they come to your heart. And they've been printed as pictures to be like a cover to stop or to, subhanAllah, avoid or stop and be an obstacle to the light of the guidance to get to your heart. So how can someone get the sharh of the sadr? How someone can inquire for the peace? How can someone dream to have that tranquility and that fervor to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we are consumed and we are trapped into these vain actions? It's enough for us to look at the social media. That's the biggest laghu. So when we're talking about the laghu, and our aspiration, our ambition, how being designed by the society. Designed by the society. Look at yourself, what is your ambition? And this ambition that lead to the way of Allah, that help you to have khushu', that help you to really increase your remembrance of Allah, you'll find it now. And if you reflect deeper, you find if you get rid of this thing, it's not going to change anything, it's not going to hurt you, it's not going to diminish anything from you. Therefore, the action to help ourselves is to make harakah of takhliyah, harakah and action of cleansing and getting rid of this laghu. Many things, subhanAllah, the phone is laghu. The devices we have is laghu. Our ambition, subhanAllah, leads to laghu. The industry of gossip is laghu. What you watch is laghu. Of course, someone is going to be moderate, choose what things that will be not stopping their travel to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this is the situation that we have. So when you think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had put in the second characteristic of the success of the believer is al-i'radu an al-lagh, is to turn away from this vain thing, idle thing. And when you think about it, this idle thing was taking all your time. This idle thing who subhanAllah are invading your heart when you are subhanAllah, your guard is down. You're not in the salah, you're not, then you are watching things or you're doing things or reading things. And the more of the things that the scholar they mention, also the occupation. People, they have occupation, their nature is full lagh. Gaming all the time and killing the time. If you do it in a moderate way, alhamdulillah, that will be from the al-halal lahu. But people, they do it in extreme way. And occupation and people, they have hobbies, all of it is laghu. So you will not be inquiring or wishing to have the sharh of the sadr when someone is drowning in the type of laghu. Why? As Ibn Atta rahimahullah ta'ala, he said in beautiful wisdom, how can you be able to meet Allah when all your heart is printed with the picture of this world? When you stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is subhanAllah, print a lot of pictures, a lot of images, and these images are covering your heart. So everything, when you try to focus, those images are coming to your mind, in your memory. Therefore, how can we be focusing? So when we do this action of fighting the lagh as way of honoring ourselves, as way of finding the path to bring that peace in our heart. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the dhikr of Allah in the source and the base of the satisfaction of the heart. Allah created the heart to find peace and tranquility with His remembrance. It's like He created the water to quench our thirst. He created, Allah made the dhikr to quench the need of the heart. It's not going to, subhanAllah, help medication or therapies and everything, except the people who have clinic issue, that's another issue. But we're talking, subhanAllah, in general. Therefore, ikhwani, when you do such a thing, you will be able, you feel your heart is thirsty to the dhikr of Allah. Why? Because you get a lot of things out of it, a lot of garbage out of your heart. Then He's ready, your heart is longing to Allah, He's longing to the dhikr. That's it, the meaning of the sharh, as Musa alayhi salam have requested it. And for this reason, when you introduce the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you become totally different person. You become connected, and you will benefit with all the wonders of the sharh that we have mentioned. And imagine how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam defined the dhikr. He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when a man came to him, he said, Ya Rasulullah, قد كثرت علينا شرائع الإسلام فهل من باب جامع نتمسك به. And in another riwayah, فقال فأخبرني عن شيء أتشبث به. He said, Ya Rasulullah, the ahkam and the laws of the Sharia becomes, so much. And the person is very humble, and he want to, subhanAllah, if there's something, that you will tell us, Ya Rasulullah, so we can hold fast to keep us focused, to keep us kind of something that will keep us, our guidance safe. The Prophet ﷺ قال لا يزال لسانك رطبا بذكر الله. Let your tongue to be always soft with the remembrance of Allah. That's the way how you can save yourself. That's the way how you can protect your integrity. That's the way how you can persevere on the path. And for this reason, we understand, if you connect this enthusiasm, this uplift of the heart, that is connected by removing and turning away and fighting that idle and vain talk and action and occupation, all of it, so you can bring and establish the dhikr within yourself. You understand now the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So it's not a question that to make dhikr to enjoy it with your tongue, and people they do chanting and so on. No, the dhikr is required as a structure to help you fulfill successfully your journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ here, what he said to this Sahabi, so keep your tongue soft with the remembrance of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordained us to do much dhikr, as He is the most merciful. And He said, if you do that, then the day that He's going to meet you, He's going to greet you with salam, and He prepared for you a tremendous reward. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this hadith, قال ألا أنبئكم بأحسن أعمالكم. Should I tell you about the best of your deeds? قال وأزكاها عند مليككم, and the purest in the sight of your Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. وأرفعها في درجاتكم, and the highest in the level and the ranks, in the reward. And it's better than to donate and give gold and silver. And it's better than to meet your enemy in the battlefield, they slay you and you slay them. They said, of course, Ya Rasulullah, tell us. قال ذكر الله, the remembrance of Allah. Now, we have to understand that the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a core into our journey is not something that you do with the tongue. Everything that you do is a remembrance of Allah when it has the intention to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is how we will be able, by this action of cleansing and adornment with the khushu' and with the dhikr of Allah. Actually, the dhikr of Allah is what is going to help you to have the focus. Then you will be able to ask Allah, تقول رب اشرح لي صدري, and you will see how Allah, He will do it for you, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you all these blessing and benefit of the sharh. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على النبي المصطفى أما بعد. Requesting the sharh, or invoking for the sharh of the sadr, need to be regarded as a necessity for the believer, a necessity for their path, a requirement of perseverance, and a truly an ambition and a dream to have joy and tranquility in the heart, and to have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protection in all the steps of your life, as He did for His Prophet and as He did for the believers, and as you can read in the Quran. And now when you do such a thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when you get on this path, Allah will give you everything. Why? Because you settle yourself in a path that is really guarantee the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The path, but how we doing is something else. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us also in the Quran, when Musa alayhi salam asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, look what was the answer. قال قد أوتيت سؤلك يا موسى, you have been granted what you have asked. So amazingly, He didn't, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري, all this long dua. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say to Musa, we will give you. He said, you will have been already given. Now look, قَدْ أُوتِيتَ سُؤْلَكَ يَا Musa. So he has been given, then he has been honored, and he has been, subhanAllah, granted that, subhanAllah, that companionship, that close friendship. Because قَدْ أُوتِيتَ سُؤْلَكَ يَا Musa, it's like he's talking to him, you get all what you have asked, Ya Musa. So look, subhanAllah, when you get on this path, that's what you're going to be rewarded with. You're going to be granted all what you ask for, because you ask it to get to highest level, it is to remember Allah much, to glorify Allah much. And then you're going to be closer and closer to Allah, and you're going to feel this deep sweetness of the Iman, that if you will have it, you will say, it's enough for me to have it, and even if I will not be granted paradise, that's what it will be enough for me, as the Salaf they used to say. For may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to have this understanding, and to help us to be aware of the very thing that we are doing, the very thing that is invading our daily life, to help ourselves get rid of it, so to create the space ready for the dhikr of Allah, and then we'll ask for the sharh. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yashrah sudurana. Allahumma ya Rabbana ashrah sudurana. Allahumma ashrah sudurana lil iman. واشرح صدورنا كي نذكرك كثيرا ونسبحك كثيرا يا رب العالمين. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا أجمعين، وثبتنا على الصراط المستقيم، وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم يا رب العالمين. ويا أرحم الراحمين احفظ إخواننا في غزة، اللهم احفظهم بحفظك، اللهم ارحمهم برحمتك، اللهم أنزل عليهم سكينتك، اللهم أفرغ عليهم صبرا وثبت أقدامهم، وانصرهم على المعتدين الظالمين. اللهم دمر الظالمين إنهم لا يعجزونك، اللهم دمر الظالمين إنهم لا يعجزونك، إنك قوي عزيز، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأقم الصلاة يرحمكم الله.